I'm happy to have you here. I don't see any comments yet on my screen here, so I hope I am actually live. Let me just verify. I don't want to be talking to myself, so just hold on a second. It's just complicated when you do a live stream because there's so many little details and you don't necessarily know what's going on. I think it's on. I just don't see anybody putting any comments in. Okay, folks. So the topic tonight is really about social media, your devices, and how we're supposed to react to society, how society expects us to be focused on doing what they expect, which is, that you're on social media and it's expected, and when you are not on it, people kind of like give you the eye and say you're weird. Are you one of those that want to live in a cave kind of comments, right? Hold on, I'm just trying to see the comments. I don't see any comments yet, so just give me a second to just verify this. Okay, there we go. Okay, there, I can see the comments now. So anyway, that's our topic for tonight, and we'll do that for the next 30 minutes, and then after that, I'll open it up to questions, and we can discuss whatever it is you want to talk about. So one of the things that kind of led me to, this topic is I was observing some parents in a setting, parents who are sending their kids to college. And one of the parents asked, what happens if my kid is not in social media? What happens? Is that acceptable to not be in social media in college? And the reaction of the other parents was, no, we that can't be. I mean, you got to be on there. They expect it. All the communications happen on Instagram, for example, and if you're not on there, you should try to find a way to be on there because you're going to miss out. And this extends even to something I've talked about over and over for many years, which is that parents start kids on the phone as early as 9. So by the time they're 9 years old, they're giving them a phone, which is so dangerous for kids because these parents just aren't thinking. And the reason they do that is because there's this social expectation that if you don't do what society expects you to do, which is that you're in social media, you will be socially excluded, and you will feel like you're not part of anything. And so people think, oh, okay, I gotta be in social media, in order to be normal. And if somebody is on social media, then they're going to be happier. They're going to have normal social interaction, and they will grow up to be better adults. In my observation, this is not actually what's happening. We see in society how people are so obsessed with phones, and you see young people going out on a date in some restaurant, and both people are on the phone. They're not paying attention to each other. They're not talking. They're on the phone responding to some message. You're having a conversation instead of looking at somebody in the eye and say, hey, I'm interested in you. Instead of doing that, they're interrupting a conversation by looking at their phones and seeing what's new in social media. And one of the things that you observe is, the young kids who are, young adults, the ones in college, for example, are feeling socially different. And it's a little different feeling than, the kids who went to college, 10 years ago, because now they feel more isolated. they feel more isolated because they're expected to react to each other in social media. For example, dorm communications are supposed to happen in social media, and then in real life they don't need to talk, so they can just ignore each other on the hallways of the dorm because, hey, we got the announcement on social media. It's really sad because and the parents are really the ones responsible for this, because we are setting an expectation that, hey, this is something we got to do. We got to give you a phone early. We got to encourage you to do this, because otherwise you'll be left out, and you won't be part of the group. And then I ask people who are not on social media, which, as you know, is very rare. It's very rare. And you ask these few individuals who are not on social media, young people who are not on social media, because they understand that there's a problem, and they seem to be interacting better because they're not dependent on having contact through some artificial means, and they're able to communicate a little bit better, and I think they mature faster and better than when everything is just done on social media. And it's funny too. I'm watching again, a lot of younger people, and they can't meet people from the opposite sex, for example, because they don't know how anymore, because they try to contact each other through social media, and it's just not in social media, unfortunately, text, and everyone knows this as you write comments on here. You don't realize that, of course, social media. Comments on like a chat like this don't have any facial expression. Communications are misconstrued. They're often thought of as exaggerated comments, and the missing part is the facial expression and how the statement was expressed. None of this exists when you're doing it in a social media format, even with all this emoticons and all that. So it's very sad, because here is the problem. In society, we are being forced to conform, and the conformity is that you got to do it in Zuckerberg's way, that you have to expose yourself, put everything out on social media, be as public as you can with no privacy, and that's the only way that you can succeed in modern life. And if you're not like that, then you must be weird. You fall into some category that they can't explain, and you must be from the caves, and you must want to live in a cave, and which is awful. Now, the reason this is an important point is because I'm trying to teach you about privacy, and in order to implement some of the things about privacy, you have to do certain things, and one of them, for example, is to have a different kind of phone. We already know that if you're on a regular phone, the phone is being tracked, and every one of your actions, every location, and everything you do is actually all recorded by Google, and they know everything that you're up to, including who you interact with, and it's all recorded. And it's disgusting, frankly, because I don't need any third party to know all of this. Not that I have anything to hide, but why should I share my life with some machine called Google? Why is that necessary? And so I teach you to let go of that by saying, let's get a de-Google phone. Now, some of you, and I get many of these comments, say, yeah, but if I get a de-Googled phone, I can't install certain apps. Well, actually not true. You can. This is kind of a disgusting idea to me, but yes, Instagram does work on a de-Googled phone. TikTok does work on a de-Googled phone. I wish it didn't, but it does. Google does not work on a Google phone. Anything Google does not. Google Drive, Google Docs, none of that work on a Google phone. Uh, but there's always some app that somebody says, oh, we gotta be in this app because everybody is, and you have a phone, so you should be able to install this app. And as you know, on the Google phone, that is not guaranteed. It depends on the app. Certain apps do not work because they require payment, which the Google phones cannot handle payments because there's no way to connect to Google. There's no signature spoofing and all the security stuff that is expected by certain apps because they want security and make sure that your phone is actually tracked. And there's no Google Maps. And so there's, certain apps don't work because they rely on Google Maps. And some just say we want Google services and they actually code into the app that they require Google services. Or even apps like Uber and Lyft do not work anymore on a Google phone. They used to. They used to work in a browser, and they say now we're not going to use a browser. Now, why is it that it doesn't work? Well, the reason is, I mean, the browser should work, right? And the reason Uber and Lyft don't want it to work anymore is because they want location tracking and identity tracking, and they can't do that. They can't do that if you hide that with a Google phone. So society forces us to interact in this way using, these kinds of traditional apps. It's so difficult now to function, in society with the requirements that they expect you to have a phone. They don't even require you to have a computer, but they expect you to do everything on a phone. You go to a restaurant and they expect you. I went to some restaurant. I was traveling and I went to the Midwest, and I went to this restaurant, and you interact completely on a website. Complete interaction, including ordering, including asking for water. Everything had to be done on this website. And it was like, wow, how is this socially better? I mean, you're giving a tip, but they won't even talk to you unless you put your request in the Zucking website on your phone. If you didn't have a phone, you guess you're not going to get service because there wasn't an option given. And the excuse given was, hey, this is contactless technology. And people look at me and say, I'm the techie here. I'm pretty techie. So don't come to me expecting that I'm anti-tech. I'm very techie. But even then, there's a limit to what you use tech for. To me, social interaction doesn't have to be put on the wayside just because technology allows it. And these kinds of I'm just watching the environment. I'm watching the kids. I'm watching young people. I'm watching social interactions. I'm watching people interact in public, and I'm talking to some kids who are sad because they appear to feel that they can't interact with people their age, and it's a sad environment. And so I'm kind of here to double down and tell you that hey, I mean, don't feel like you have to conform to this. I mean, we actually have to create a community that says, hell no, we're not going to do this. We don't have to conform. We don't have to say we got to use an app. Sometimes we say, you go to the restaurant and say, hey, can I have a paper menu? And don't feel like that's some sort of negative because you want to have a paper menu. I don't think so. Somebody will say, well, I guess you're an old guy, so you don't know how to interact in a modern world. And and somehow it's so special that we're doing everything on these mobile apps. And I'm going to tell you, as a techie, I'm saying, hell no. Hell no. These are just tools, and we should use them as tools. We don't need to turn society into this. And this is why don't be afraid to stand out and say, hey, my phone doesn't do that. My phone doesn't do that. I'm not afraid to tell them that. Well, my phone doesn't do that. I don't have that kind of app. I can't do as you ask. So I'm not afraid of that. That doesn't embarrass me. And hell with all these parents that expect their kids to conform. Hold off giving your kids a phone. You'll be surprised. They'll actually develop much faster if you just hold on. Wait till they're ready to go to high school before you start giving them all this. It's not necessary. So what are they going to do? So you say, oh, I'm going to give them a phone so they can get on Instagram. And you what part of their life suffers because they're not on Instagram? And of course, Zuck that Instagram. I mean, that's Zuckerberg zone there. I mean, I don't want anyone to be on an Instagram because all the tracking and everything, that Facebook represents. So Zuckerberg doesn't believe in your privacy. He's going to collect every piece of data he can and start as early as possible. And some of you are introducing kids to all this technology at the age of zucking 9. So, I had a friend who had a 9-year. How old was this girl? I think she was 11. 11. Okay, so 11-year-old girl was given a phone, and she was spending all her time on the phone, and basically she went everywhere on the internet. She went everywhere on the internet. She was on Instagram, and the parents would ask, so what apps are you on? They don't even know. They don't even know. And I would tell people the story where back in the day when I was on Periscope. Periscope is the Twitter video app some time ago before it was shut down. Shut down before Musk. And Musk may put it back on, but in any case, some 12-year-old, a couple of 12-year-old girls go on Periscope, and there are many weirdos on Periscope, a lot of them, and so these two girls were being subjected to pretty abusive comments and taunting. Some pretty bad stuff, take off your clothes. This is 12 years old. And the weird part was the parents were nearby. They were in the backyard, and the girls were on a side corner, and this was in the backyard, and I can hear the parents talking and whatever. And these two girls were just on their phone live streaming, and parents didn't even understand that. They didn't even know. They had no idea. So it's very sad because this is an expectation that we got to give them a device and they got to go everywhere, and they don't need supervision because socially they will suffer if we don't let them do what they want in social media and all this. And it's really sad, and the expectation continues on that every part of your life that you are supposed to interact only with your phone and social media. And it wouldn't surprise me in the future if they say, well, you have to do your test on the phone. Wouldn't surprise me. So if you have a Google phone, then you're pretty much stuck because there's certain apps that won't run, and you can't explain why your phone doesn't do it. Because there's an expectation that, from the time you're 9 years old, you already have a phone. So anyway, this is a sad state of affairs. Now, given that society puts limitations on us, and sometimes they force us to use apps that we would consider dangerous, for example, or apps that only work on a normie phone, like an iPhone or standard Google Android, and it doesn't run on the Google phone. What do we do? What do we do? What am I telling you to do? So, am I saying, say, "Zuck you"? There's nothing I can do. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna go load your app. The problem is that we can't always get away with that, especially with employers. And so, in a way, we're forced to give up our privacy by being forced to go into a Google phone or a iPhone and have that track us, and we don't feel like we can actually achieve privacy. So I'm going to tell you something that I accept as reality, and I do it myself. I have two phones. Yeah, YouTube is forcing users to turn on watch history. Yes, yeah. Of course, that doesn't bother me because of the way I. Well, let's discuss that and remind me again when we get to the Q&A section, because I want to talk about that. Because if you're doing it the right way, that actually wouldn't bother you at all. You say, you want my watch history? Sure. I actually assume they have a watch history, even if they don't. Anyway, what I do is I have two phones, and my second phone is a standard phone. So it's good for emergencies. If I have to travel and I need to use Uber and Lyft or something like that, that doesn't work on a Google phone, and the phone is off. I also put a different identity on it, so I'm a different person on the phone, and it's off most of the time. So the question is, what actually happens? What is the risk? What is the risk of having a second phone like that, which you identify with a different name? I'm not going to go, attach a real identity to it with credit cards and all that, but I can put in a fake name and fake Gmail account and all of that, and I even put a different SIM card in there, and so it will actually work, and it can receive even texting and two-factor authentication and all that, because it's a separate phone. But I turn it off. Now, what happens is, because it's off, you think to yourself, well, what are they tracking? What are they tracking when the phone is off? Well, obviously, as long as it's not an iPhone, nothing. So the phone emits no data. You turn it off, the phone emits no data. Then you just turn it on, and suddenly you pop up on Google and say, oh, the phone is finally on, and now we're tracking again. And then you use it briefly, and then you turn it off again. But you only use certain apps, and you don't do the kinds of things that allow them to track you, like apps like Google Apps. So if you're not using that, and there's no email or anything like that on the phone, is being used for a very limited purpose, you think to yourself, is what am I actually revealing with that? Because at the Google phone, if you have the Google phone and you have a standard phone, yes, the Google phone will always track you, get your locations and all that. Yeah, you have to assume that actually is going to work. But it can't match to the Google phone, because the Google phone doesn't have location. The Google phone doesn't have Wi-Fi triangulation, doesn't have any of that. The location tracking on the Google phone is not very accurate. So it can't even pinpoint that the two phones are next to each other. So you turn on this secondary phone that you might have, because some of you are really sticklers with it. And they say, oh, I can't run my favorite app that my employer requires me to use because I'm a truck driver, or whatever the app they use to track you, and so therefore I can't have a de-Googled phone. That's a wrong kind of attitude. Because we're talking about activity segregation, or partitioning your activities. If you don't do anything on the Google phone, what are they tracking? They may be tracking location, but there's no action. You're not doing anything. You're not browsing. You don't have to browse because you can use your other phone for that. So you're using it for a certain app, let's say. So you say, who cares? Okay, I'll use your sucking app. Because your society, you're forcing me to do it. Fine, I'll play the sucking game. Yes, okay, I'll load whatever app you want. But I'm going to fucking turn it off when I'm not using it. And I'm not going to use it. I won't browse with the phone. I won't put email on it. I won't put anything on it. If you want me to use it for Lyft and Uber, because society expects me to do Lyft and Uber on a Google phone, fine. I'll fucking do that, but I'll turn it off. And you say to yourself, okay, so what am I actually losing here? What am I actually losing here with being exposed with a phone like this? Well, because there's no activity, it's kind of limited what they can actually do. And again, they can't match a Google phone to a Google phone even if they're next to each other because there's no, contact tracing. None of that is on a Google phone. Yeah, none of that is on a Google phone. So there are no connections made between a Google phone and a Google phone. Now, I would prefer that the secondary phone not be an iPhone because of the tracking of the iPhone is continuous even when off. So that's a problem. That's what I worry about with iPhones because it's tracking even when off. And then you have to put it in a Faraday bag, which is kind of a pain because that's another step. So yeah, it would be better to just get some other Android, some cheap Android that is actually running Google, and then it doesn't even have to be supplied with a SIM card with data if you use the other phone as a hotspot. However, because of the requirements of 2FA with certain applications, they require that you have 2FA. It's very hard to do that without actually having a SIM card on it. So in my case, I do have a SIM card on it, and you can get some pretty cheap SIM cards. Like I have Red Pocket for $60 a year, and for occasional use, it's fine. For occasional use, it's not expensive enough to worry about to get a little bit of privacy. So So what I'm saying is, yes, society forces us to conform, and I'm giving you a way out of that, saying, sure, you want us to conform, we'll conform, but with a little bit of a trickery in there, because by conforming, they want you to reveal your entire life on the phone. So no, the answer is have two phones. And use it only in the limited cases where you are forced to. And otherwise put the phone away. So yeah, I traveled. I was traveling across the country, and yeah, my second phone was available at any time if I needed to. And if you have a kid, with the same situation, you may consider, the same kind of setup where you say, okay, you want to be on social media because you're forced to. Okay, fine. Here's some old device. Maybe it's Wi-Fi only, and you can run your Zucking app on there with a different name, and then turn it off when it's not being used. And but don't do your normal heavy-duty interaction on that device. Then you partition your life, and we still get the privacy, and we give them something, but they don't get much. Okay, so that's my answer to this, because this may not change. We're probably going to be continuing to have this problem for the long run. So it may be that we have to adapt and come up with a solution like this over time. So anyway, just making you aware of that, especially if you have kids, they're unhappy because they can't go on social media, and you can give them some options, the occasional option in an emergency. But still, I would say live life, live real life, talk to real people. Don't introduce kids to this at an early age. Live life and tell them how to live life. Okay, well, I'll get to the Google thing in a moment here after our sponsor break. So one of you asked me, what would you do? You know, you want to make a website, but you don't want to hire somebody to do a website. What's the easiest way to do a website? And guess what, guys? The easiest way to do a website that you control is to go to Linode. So Linode is a cloud service provider, and they actually have an option of preloaded servers that are already configured, loaded with WordPress. This is one of the advantages of a Linode, because they've done that. They pre-install. You don't have to learn how to do all that. You just learn how to use it. Learn how to use WordPress itself. They can pre-install WordPress on a Linode server, and you can rent those for as little as $5 a month. They don't charge you for pre-installing WordPress, for example, and you can. There's a lot of other apps they can pre-install, including stores and things, if you're a little bit more techie. But they're all there, and you don't need to have advanced skills in tech to go figure it out. If you're a power user, you should be able to do it. So that's one of the things you can do on a site like Linode. And one of the things that is kind of neat about doing it on Linode is how cheap it is. So if you want to set up a server on some other provider like GoDaddy or AWS, it's going to cost you at least double. And I found that going to Linode is much more reasonable. Plus, their tech support is amazing. If you go to Linode and use the code /RobBraxman, they're going to give you a 2-month credit of $100, which you can apply to anything you buy, to any service or to any server you use within a period of 2 months. So you get a little bit of a break there. So yeah, so use the code RobBraxman, and then they'll help you out. Okay, now let's get back to that question. And the question is, Google is requiring you, if you want to have that home, you don't have to have home. I mean, it's a convenience, but because they suggest videos to you from that home page. So if you want to use home, and I was required to do it too, and I had to think about it, and I said, who cares? I'm going to turn on watch history for you. And now you're saying, what? Rob Braxman is saying you can turn on watch history? No, you got to understand that it's a little different for me and for many of you, because we do browser isolation. Browser isolation. If you do browser isolation, then who cares if they're tracking your watch history? Because you're being smart. Well, I do browser isolation. I teach you browser isolation, and I already assume that they're tracking what you're doing when you're on Chrome. I already made that assumption. So whether or not watch history is on or not, I assume that it tracks, and it actually does, by the way. You can see that even without watch history, that the recommendations actually match what I watched before. So they're probably tracking it via cookies. So it may not be a permanent association, but they have it, and they store the history attached to the cookie. It's just not permanent. So it's basically it's like this. It's like watch history, that it gets cleared after you clear the cookies. So that's what the equivalent is. So you can go to watch history and then clear history and then develop the history again and clear history. That would be the same as clearing the cookies. So that's the equivalent approach here. So why do I not care? Well, because I told you when you do browser isolation, you make the assumption that Google is in fact watching you. It would be incorrect to assume that somehow you're doing something private here when you do anything Google. So let me again repeat the browser isolation strategy that I've explained over and over, because it's a very important one, and this is why I don't worry too much about a lot of this. Okay, it's actually kind of similar to having the two phones, because what you do is partitioning your life. You partition your data, and you partition your life according to how the data is going to be seen. And then third parties will see it based on whatever partition they can see. So the browser isolation strategy is simple. If I'm going to do anything Google logged in with my Google ID, I always do it on Chrome. Okay? Now let's not argue about why Chrome. Use Chrome. Logged into Google. Right now, every one of you making comments here are logged into Google. Do it on Chrome. Okay? Why? Because Chrome is already attached to Google and they own Chrome. So you're not giving any more data than they already have, because they have your Google ID and you're already logged in. So don't taint some other browser. Just taint Chrome, because it's fine. Okay? So Chrome is tainted and we understand that. Now, because Google is tracking what you do on Chrome and on anything Google, google.com, YouTube, and Gmail, then make the assumption that somebody is in fact watching anything you do on Chrome. With that expectation, you should be smart, because you start saying, well, there are certain things I don't want Google to see. So I don't want certain activity of mine on YouTube to be associated with me, so I'm going to assign it a different identity. But for my identity on Google using Chrome, I want to assume that there is a entity that's watching everything I click on and everything I do, and accept that. It's accepting what is a reality. So if that's going to be the case, what happens when you want to watch something that is not something you want to share with Google? I give you an example. It's something political. So I don't want Google to know my political beliefs. So I do not ever click on anything political on Google. Or if I do, I always click on the opposite one. Okay, so if I'm left-wing, I'm going to click on right-wing things. If I'm right-wing, I'm going to click on left-wing things, or not at all. That way Chrome can't know what I believe, in which case it can't categorize me. For example, just so this is clear again with real examples here. Certain people are very vocal about being anti-vax and so on. And I'm not anti-vax, but many people were, which I respect. But they were too open about it, and they were out there stating that in many places, and searching out all the anti-vax videos and doing all that on YouTube. Well, why do that? Best yet is to not engage in any activity that could categorize you, because what happens is the moment you categorize yourself on Google, Google actually modifies the search engine. Some of you don't actually know this. You think I'm just making this up. This is actually true, and I made videos about it that nobody watches. But Google then tracks you based on your Google ID that you're anti-vax. There's some categories they have. That's one of them. There were some, for example, it was one category was anti-Hillary. Can't believe the categories they came up with. So basically they have all these different categorizations, and they attach it to your Google ID. And what happens is they change the search results. They actually change search results. You can't even search for anything, any content that is unbiased, because they will bias the results to counter whatever it is you're doing. You can't even search for anything honestly. Honest data doesn't even show up in search because it's been tainted uh, by what is it? What's the name of the company in the UK that CV? What is it? I can't remember the name of the company. Some of you will remember that video. CV something. The company in their partner in the UK that takes the data from your search history and modifies your search results. So they have it as a project for jigsaw.google.com. So this is something they actually do, and that's just one element, that's search history, and they do it in many parts. They modify what videos appear for you, and so on. And Moonshot CVE, there you go. I remember now, Moonshot CVE. Okay, so Moonshot CVE is the partner of Google, and they actually modify your stuff. And this only, what I'm talking about here, applies only to search history, but there's other projects that deal with other things that they manipulate on Google to react to whatever your political belief is. So the answer is not to let them know what your political belief is. You don't. So the solution is browser isolation. So I set up a second browser, and the second browser is, let's say, Brave, okay? And on Brave, I can also go to YouTube. But on Brave, I do not log in. So on the first one, I log in. The second one, I don't log in. So on Brave, I don't log in because I know that Google will track. So whatever I don't want Google to track, I go on Brave, and then I search for something else, something political. It's okay. You can search for whatever you want. And then all you have to do is clear cookies, and it's gone, and there's no login. You never log into Google on that browser. So given this, does it matter that the watch history is on the Chrome one? Actually not, because you can actually see what Google knows about you, and you can support the image that you want Google to know by building the watch history to be compliant with whatever image you want. I know this is kind of like sneaky and all this, but goodness, that's the only way to respond in this world. It's the only way to get privacy nowadays. You got to be active. You have to be active in making up your own persona. So there, I have a different persona on Chrome, let's say. And but when I want to search for something that I honestly want to search about, I'm going to do it without logging in, and I should be getting more fair results because I'm not categorized. I'm not going to be fed videos that that I have no interest in, which is meant to change a political opinion, for example. I don't do that. So anyway, that's why I don't really care if they take watch history, because I actually like that. The more I can fashion my history to be what they want it to be, then we're good there, because I want Google to actually tell me what they think I am based on my watch history, and you should get it on your home screen. So for example, if your watch history is such that you didn't follow my lead and you actually started watching political videos, because you can't help yourself, you need to help yourself, but you can't help yourself, so you screwed it up. Okay, clear your watch history, clear cookies, and start again, and refresh your attitude about what you should be doing on that browser. On your Brave browser, if you want to do all the political stuff in there and you want to know what you are searching for, well, make bookmarks. That's fine. You can make bookmarks all you want on Brave, and bookmarks are not sent to Google or anybody else. So there you go. Then you can track whatever you do, and you don't have to worry about that being recorded to a Google ID, because there is no Google ID. If you're using NewPipe on the Google phone, that's also fine. You can search for whatever you want because there's no Google identity on NewPipe. So that's fine as well. Okay, so if you're following to summarize what I just said, if you're following what I'm saying here, if you are using browser isolation, you shouldn't care. In fact, you should be happy that they're doing watch history, because you can fashion your persona and check to make sure that Google actually is seeing your persona based on what you want it to be. If you make a mistake, it will be reflected. Let's say you watch history, you watch something political, it will be reflected in what's recommended to you. You're going to start seeing political videos on your side. Then you know you screwed up. And in which case, I would erase history from Google activity, erase cookies, then turn history back on and do it right next time. And remember to do that kind of Google search on a different browser, never logging in. Okay, I know some of you will say, oh my goodness, so many steps here, but we're being manipulated, folks. And if you don't do things like to fight, and you say, well, I'm just a normie, I'm just gonna do what normie people do, which is nothing, and that's not going to be good for you. So you need to be smart about this. You need to fight back. Don't be lazy here. It's a rough world out there. If you do not do what I suggest, you will find out that you're going to be manipulated, and they're going to tell you things that may not be true, and they will, and you will accept it because you see it so often, and they will feed you lies, and there's no way for you to tell the truth anymore, which they've done, as you know, over and over. Many things were not true, and if they say it often enough, it becomes true. Okay, and some of you know this, especially those who complain about vax procedures and vaxing policies and vax requirements and all that, and many of you were unhappy with that, and you thought that you must be wrong because everything you read is against you. But if you actually did not let them know what you think, you probably wouldn't get as much of a biased set of videos and search results that go against what you want. You will see a bit more of a balance. So that's what I suggest you do. So Vic Zart, how are you doing, my friend? Still using the same icon, I see. Vic there's from Periscope days. Some of you are here from Periscope days. Musk may bring back Periscope. You never know. If it goes back, I'm not going to go on Periscope. I don't have any need for that anymore. Okay, problem with that. Gnostic said, since I came back for a bit of YouTube, it's making me turn on my watch history and not allowing me to browse without doing that. Like I said, Gnostic, turn on watch history. Who cares? But watch what you watch. Use 2 browsers for YouTube. 2 browsers for YouTube. Did you not pay attention there? Let me repeat again. 2 browsers for YouTube. One logged in, which is Chrome. Turn on watch history, but be careful about what you watch on that. Make sure that they see what you want them to see. So avoid politics on that. So as an example, politics is probably the biggest one. And anything that, suggests a belief system that's against the policies of certain three-letter agencies. I'm going to tell you guys that and Snowden made a comment on his thing that the three-letter agencies that begin, for example, the one that begins with F, is hell-bent on putting people in lists. So if you believe a certain thing, they're going to put you on a list. And I told you this, and I've told you this many times in several videos that I've made, which hardly anybody watches, like the one on Moonshot CVE, where I showed you that they actually have a map of people by belief. Google can pinpoint by community which houses are believing in certain aspects of whatever they're checking on. And so it is very easy for somebody like a three-letter agency that begins with F to say, we're going to categorize you and put you on a list, which will put you on a watch list. Okay, it's very freedom-loving of the three-letter agency to do that. I mean, I thought it was a free country and you can say whatever you want. But no, you can't say whatever you want. This is, don't you feel like you're in a dictatorship? You say something and you get put on a zucking list. Okay? Snowden just said that. Wasn't it like a week or two ago? Go check out his tweets. I guess you can't call it a tweet anymore. His exes, his posts. Why too dark? What do you care if it's too dark? Because I don't want it to be too bright, because then it washes out my face. So anyway, he did say that, and in case you didn't know, Snowden is a Democrat, but he still said that. So he, of course, he's the enemy of the zucking BI. So anyway, he said that it's true that they're into making lists. They were making lists of people on the old Twitter. They love making lists. They love putting you on a list. And when I travel, I did worry if I was put on a list, and I go into TSA and somebody checks out that I am on that list. But fortunately, nothing of the sort happened. But it does worry me, and I'm just being aware that anyone can be put on a list. Now, I don't express any political opinions on my platform here or anywhere. I mean, I don't really care what I don't discuss politics in any of this. So the URL is still twitter.com. Yeah, that's right. But actually, that's not 100%, because x.com still, it does work. It just goes to Twitter. But you can actually type x.com. So I actually put x.com on the browser, and it will go to Twitter. So you put them on a list too. Theo Lux said that you put them on a list too. But it's easy to put them on a list because there's so many letters. There are only 3 letters, so it's easy to put them on a list. But they'll put you on the zucking list, and in this fair society, what do you think about that? So what do they do when they put you on the list and they say, maybe we'll use this list to collect data for blackmail? Who knows what they're going to use it for? I just don't like being put on a list. It's one of the things that, coming from a dangerous society with a dictatorship, that just always bugged me. And I don't have to explain why it bugs me. It just bugs me. I don't like to be put on any zucking list. So, Vic doesn't like the Cybertruck. Vic doesn't like the Cybertruck. Well, you don't like the Cybertruck, huh? Yeah, it looks cool to me. I'm not, I don't do any work that requires a Cybertruck, but the truck looks cool. So I bet you a lot of people will buy it because it's cool, not because they need it for any kind of construction work. So they created a map for, yes, they did justice. They actually did do that. And they have many categories. If you go to the Moonshot CV site, you can see some of the many categories they created, and some of it's not fair. For example, they classify certain people as violent extremists with the word violent, which means when you get categorized as violent, it's going to go to the sucking BI. So yeah, that's one way to say, oh, we're going to elevate the seriousness of your category by labeling you as a violent extremist. Not just an extremist, but a violent extremist. So you'll see that on Moonshot CV. They actually have a category for that. And guess what they base this conclusion off as far as violence? It's not based on you actually doing any violence. This is what's crazy about all this. It's not based on saying, we found out that you were violent. You did something violent. No. You were put on a list by Moonshot CV as being a violent extremist from your zucking search history. Search history. It's pretty crazy that you're being categorized as violent when you didn't even do anything violent other than search. Don't do eSIM, Jay. Please don't do eSIM. How do you take it off? How do you take the eSIM off? For the foreseeable future, at least Brax phones will have, no eSIM. So yeah, don't do eSIM. What are your feelings about Musk not helping Maui with free Skynet for a short period while their system gets back? Why do you ask him that? Musk is not the government, though. Why you? I'm curious. Why are you expecting a private enterprise to, specifically him, be the only one to help this area, which is just one city, right? And instead of having the government supply the help, wonder why are you expecting private enterprise to, one particular one, not a collection of private enterprise companies, but one. Yeah. Brax Onion browser. Why do you need a Brax Onion browser? It's already LokiNet. You can turn LokiNet on, and any browser you use is suddenly Onion based. You can install LokiNet on any computer. How much has the Periscope days changed your life? You've donated so much of your time. Thank Jen says, I remember that I was doing Periscope for 7 years, I think, and I was doing Periscope daily. Every zucking day, 7 days a week, 2 hours a day, every day. And that was pretty tough. And then I would get attacked all the time. Yeah, it was, but it was fun too. Didn't make any money from it though. So it was just, a build up to what I'm doing now. Now the difference is that when I'm doing videos are so hard to make. Some of you may not realize this, and you think I just go turn on the camera and just talk, and then suddenly kind of like a live stream. No, videos are very hard to do. First of all, you have to come up with the idea, then you have to write the story. I gotta write, what I'm going to say, and which means research, and then I have to, do a studio recording of it. Then I gotta edit it, and that's a week of work for every video. And if I have to make up because I have to do something, and then I have to pile up 2 videos in a week, it's very, very hard. So if Periscope ever came back, I can't do that kind of thing where I went on Periscope and did it every day, because the YouTube method takes so much more time. It's not a lot of effort to do a live stream because I just turn it on and talk, and I don't have a script. But to come up with a topic, and you have to put a thumbnail, and you got to have a specific idea, it's very, very hard to do. So yeah, I'm gonna keep doing it this way, and I'm not gonna to do it the Periscope way. However, I'm doing these live streams more as a way to find out what you guys are thinking. I actually, use it to get ideas as well, to see, who my followers are and what you're thinking, and if I'm syncing with whatever you want. Because otherwise, I don't want to. That's why comments are important, even on the videos. I don't want to be going off the path, because based on your comments, I see, my base is in this group. So anyway, I sail a lot, Vic. So I go sailing every week at least. So sometimes more. No script is better, says Cloud Watcher. No, actually that's not true. If I did no script, nobody will watch the videos. You can see there are not that many people that watch a live stream. Live streams aren't made to... In fact, I lose followers every time I do a live stream. And right now, I'm at 400,000. Wouldn't surprise me at all if, I lose a sufficient number of people that I will go below 400,000 right after this live stream. Maybe it is now already under 400,000. Wouldn't surprise me at all. It's just the way live streams are. So you lose between 20 to 50 subscribers every time I do a live stream. So, James Mason remembers that Hong Kong protest, and I showed you how, and I even showed you pictures of it. They were wearing anonymous masks, but they had their phones on, and they were all playing on their phones. It's so stupid. So it's like, you're not anonymous with the phone. So yeah, it's kind of stupid if you think about that. So did you actually remember my tip about what I said about having 2 phones? I just tried that. It's not something I did before, but I said I was investigating the efficacy of having 2 phones with one phone turned off, just being there as an emergency, because because I'm traveling and you can't run Uber, Lyft on the Google phone. So I said, just in an emergency, I want to have an option. I end up not using it. I actually, what did I use it for? I know, I use it for Waze. So when I was doing Waze, I used a normie phone. That was it. I used it for Waze, then I turned it off. Will the latest Brax phone work in Asia Pacific? Yes, when there is a new Brax phone. There is no new Brax phone right now. There are no more Brax phones. No more Brax 2 phones. The Brax 3 phone is not out yet. I do have a Brax 3 phone. So in case you're wondering if this phone is actually real. Yeah, I have a test phone right now. This is a Brax 3 phone. Okay, so let me I'm not advertising it here, I'm just showing you, okay, what it looks like. So You see that? Okay, so square, metal, this metal edge all around. Yeah, and I'm trying like different apps on it. This is not Brax OS. This is just some AOSP. So we don't have Brax OS on it yet, but just showing you that, and I'm just trying different apps on it. So yeah. So anyway, that's you can see the camera side there. So in general, you might say it looks like an iPhone. It does look like an iPhone. So if you're out in public, at quick glance, it will just look like an iPhone. And it's thinner. It's thinner than a Brax 2 phone. Now this is something I'm going to show you that you will notice. Okay, now look at the edges there, and you will see a red light. See that? There's one on the other side as well. Okay. Now what are those little lights? Well, they're switches. They're hardware switches. There, I turn it off. Okay, there's a red light right on there. And you turn the switch off and the light goes off. Light goes on, light goes off. So this phone has physical switches. We're still programming what the switches will do. One of the switches will turn off the microphone and the camera. So all you have to do is turn off the switch and the microphone and camera will not work. That way then you know nobody can listen in and do all that because it's switched at the hardware level. Then the other switch will likely turn off the SIM card. Okay, so that's an easy way to do that without having to pull out the SIM card or having to go into settings and do that. You can just do it by switch. That's the plan right now. Okay, so that's the 2-switch system on a Brax 3. So Brax 3, you cannot remove the battery. You can't remove the battery at the moment, but maybe because of the EU laws that require that batteries be replaceable, that the manufacturers will make a version of these phones that have a replaceable battery. Because of our volume, we don't have enough volume. We have to buy motherboards that are already made. So there are no motherboards with removable batteries. So we can't just make one up. We don't have the volume to say, make a phone with removable batteries. We got to use an existing motherboard. And all of those have fixed batteries. So there's no connectors for, removable batteries. So that's a limitation that we have because of low volume. But when the EU says we're going to do replaceable battery, then yeah, we'll be able to do that. Switch for the flashlight is, you don't need a switch for the flashlight. You just have the usual, the button. It's already in the, yeah, why do you need any physical button for that? It's already in the app. Okay. You don't need to put tape on the camera on a Brax 2 phone. It's already built in. But one of the nice features about the Brax 2 phone is just how sleek it is. It's very thin. It's slightly smaller than the current Brax 2. So I know it's black, so it's hard to actually see it. Yeah, so that's metal. Now we were discussing if the back should be glass or not. So we end up not glass. So this is composite. So the back is composite. It's not glass. Hard to scratch. It's not easy to scratch. So it's not shiny. It's kind of a matte finish. Okay, so that's this phone is not available. There's no OS for it yet, but I've been using it for a while now, So I've been using this phone for at least a couple months. So this is going to be the Brax 3 when it's available. Okay, you don't care for glass backs anyway, they break. Well, the problem is the scratch resistance, because of course glass doesn't scratch, whereas plastic does. But this plastic does not scratch, so I think we've accomplished the same thing. Okay, no, you don't need a Brax sat phone. Why would you want a sat phone? No, we're not going to be selling you any kind of sat phones. It's impossible. So sat phones don't work indoors. So buy a sat phone if you want to use that. But then you can only make calls outdoors. Okay, how are we doing time here? We still have 20 minutes. Okay, so any more questions? So yeah, so we don't have any more Brax 2 phones. I'm completely out. If you go to the store, they're out of stock. We have good supplies of Pixels coming in and out. They do move pretty fast, and we don't get a lot, so we get a lot of them in small quantities. And so yeah, so if you're on Verizon, Brax 3 is not intended to support Verizon. So if you're a Verizon user, go ahead and get a a Google Pixel from our store. They will work with Verizon. If you are a traveler and you're trying to get support for multiple countries, the Brax 3 phone may not be good for that because it's missing a band, whereas Pixel phones have all the bands. So if you're doing a lot of traveling, it may be better to have a Pixel. What is the brand of Brax 3? Brax 3. There is no equivalent. So Brax 3 is assembled in the EU. So it will actually say it's made in the EU. So at least that's the plan right now. Okay, so yeah, so the phone will be from the EU, and so the software is not yet finalized. It will also come from the EU. As you know, the software is based on Lunar OS, open source, and with a fork for Brax OS. So, what carrier is best for Brax phones? The phone, the built-in IMEI is compatible with T-Mobile. So I have to figure this out here, because T-Mobile, you don't have to do anything. It works right immediately. But if you're doing AT&T, we have to flash the IMEI, because we didn't do the payola to AT&T. AT&T requires some payola to support your phone. So with AT&T, we got to go flash the IMEI. So for T-Mobile, you don't have to. It works fine, as is. Okay, so that means T-Mobile MVNOs will all work. Mint, all of the different MVNOs, that Metro PCS, what else? All the ones that support T-Mobile. There's a bunch of them. Then the ones that do AT&T require a IMEI. So I don't know how to. We haven't gotten that point yet. So we may need to just flash the IMEI of all the phones. The same as we're doing now, because we don't know if you're going to use AT&T. Okay. The other thing is, if you're using Verizon, it's not going to work anyway. Brax 3 is not intended to work with Verizon. So for Verizon, use a Pixel. So as I said again, if you're going to be a Verizon user or international traveler, where you're going to be switching countries constantly, then no need to wait. Get a Pixel. We stock Pixel 6, Pixel 6a, Pixel 5, Pixel 4a, primarily those in the store. The 6s, Pixel 5 and above are all 5G. Pixel 4a is not 5G. So just about all the phones are 5G, not the real 5G, the fake 5G. Nobody has the real 5G yet, so we got just the fake 5G. So it's not dangerous yet because it's not the real 5G. So don't be ready. I mean, don't be scared of the what they call 5G now, because it really isn't 5G as I described in my videos. Okay. Okay, we got 15 minutes. What else do you want to ask? So I use Red Pocket, by the way, for AT&T. That's where I have $60 a month. And that does not work with a non-IMEI flashed Brax 3. That's why I know that, because it didn't work, because it didn't like the IMEI. So we have to flash the IMEI. you want to landline with your van. Actually, you can do that. You can use UMA. You can use an UMA phone and attach it to a hotspot. Let's talk about how every phone has FM radio pre-installed. It demands mic permissions. It will not let you force stop or uninstall it. I don't have FM radio. Is that some sort of spy app? Yeah, you gotta. That's worrisome, isn't it? If some FM radio is requiring you to have mic permissions, it could be a spy app. So you're correct to, as explained in my last video, you are correct to wonder about that, and you should disable that app and find some other. I'm sure there are other FM apps or just streaming apps that stream FM radio, not actual FM, not that kind of UMA. UMA is spelled OOMA, voice over IP. It's hardware, but you got to plug it into the internet, and the best way to do that is just to have a hotspot. And camera requiring Bluetooth. Motorola has it in most of their phones, not on the Google phones. So yeah, if you're doing that, then you should have a Google phone instead. Yeah. Red Pocket works perfectly with the original Brax 2 IMEI. It's correct. That is correct. Yeah. Every phone. Yeah. I certainly don't have it in any of the Google phones. Which is recommended email to use. Can't use a VPN. Which is recommended email to use. Can't use a VPN. Now, Anonymous, obviously we have an email service, so it's hard to tell you what to use when I'll give you a biased response. It's kind of great to be able to offer the service of having email, where we give you 5 domains, and for $50 you are able to partition your email traffic so that it goes to one inbox, so you don't have to worry about that being multiple things you got to track. They all arrive in the same inbox, but the idea of having multiple domains allow you to control who you give your email to. So Brax 3 phone, will you one day support Verizon? No. It may be called some other model, but the Brax 3 phone will not support Verizon. Motorola's don't support Verizon. I was selling Motorola's for many years without Verizon. So unfortunately, Verizon's kind of a pain. So For that, you use a pixel. Okay, so Great Gold describes it properly. If you're using Brax Mail is focused on removing identifiers, so you don't need to use a VPN because it removes your IP address from the email. So you don't have to, when you're emailing in Brax Mail, you don't have to worry about whether the VPN is on or not. If you're using some other email product, you do have to worry that you're always on a VPN. So why deal with that? Just use Brax Mail, then you never have to think about it. VPN, no VPN, it doesn't matter. You're always going to be safe. So that is the purpose of Brax Mail, to hide the source, so people can't find out where it came from. Motorola and LG work everywhere. Well, not historically. That's not true. Historically, LG does. Motorola has not historically worked with Verizon for in the past. The G7 Plus, the G7, many of the old Edge, and many of those models do not work with Verizon. Please suggest a non-trackable, no pre-installed apps phone available in India. Well, the Google phone, like the ones we sell. Yeah, so any of them, the Pixels, we don't have any more Brax phones, but the Pixels, they'll work just fine. Can you help me exploit this illegal surveillance? No, unless you're a three-letter agency, you already know how to exploit illegal surveillance. Okay, we're down to 9. We have 9 minutes left. I have a Motorola G6 that works on all carriers. Yes, but as I said, it's not, historically, they have not been working. So don't make the assumption that because you have one that it always works. It depends on how they work with Verizon on it. I would imagine they have to, get authorization for Verizon on it. So in the past, they have not done that, so the phones have not worked. So the most famous one is the G7, and the G7 did not work. So I know that more than anyone because I get the return. I say, I use it on Verizon, your phone doesn't fucking work, and I want a return. So yeah, so we take it back. So that's a very common problem. So I don't sell any more Motorola's. Motorola's are not as good as the Pixels. The Pixels are actually very high quality phones. They're more expensive than a Motorola, and they're the quality is there. So Pixels are much better phones, and they're the newer models are actually very nice. And let's see, I have okay, this is a phone that I'm returning to Canada. This is your phone from Canada. You're asking me if this phone is ready. It is. It's going to be shipped out tomorrow. And this one is a Pixel 7 Pro. We don't sell this at the store, but we were sent this to install it, and so we did. And it's a bigger phone. My goodness, it's actually it's slightly smaller. It's slightly bigger than a Brax 3. So it's about similar in size to a Brax 2, it looks like. And this is the top of the line Google phone. So that's the top of the line model. Very expensive though. Okay, so that we can do for you if you buy your own phone. We can install the software for you, or you can just buy ones that we already have and already done. And they're priced. Some of them are really nicely priced. For example, we only sell the Pixel 6a already pre-installed with Calyx OS for forget the price. I think it's $420. Okay, so it's in mint condition. In fact, it's brand new, and we sell it pre-installed already. So otherwise, you have to buy the phone, and then we have to add our service to install the software on it. And this one's already there, and it's already priced right. And if you bought the phone yourself in mint condition, you'll be paying the same price plus the shipping, and then wait for it to arrive and all that. So this one saves the time for you, and the price is good. So we price it based on availability. If the phone is hard to find, we got to go fight to get it in the market and get one with a good quality. Then and then I have to warrant it. And if it breaks, I got to warrant it for 30 days. And obviously Google's not going to warrant the phones. So we take a risk with it, and then we adjust the price accordingly. But we actually have lowered the prices on the Pixels, so they're on very thin margins at the moment. Okay, so it's a pretty good deal. Whatever phones we have currently, the pricing is good. They're very good deals right now. So while I have stock, now as I lose stock, then I have to adjust the price if I can't get the phones. So I'm able to get those phones right now, and when October starts and then the new phone models come out, we may have more success with even more phone supply. So that's what it is. It's a cycle. People buy phones in October typically, and then we're able to get their phones that they sold. They traded in, and we get to buy that in the market. So now the Pixel 6 and 6As though are new models. They're 2023 models, so they're actually new phones. Okay, so you're not going to have an issue with battery being depleted, because they're very new phones. The Pixel 5 was last year, so that's only a year old. So that's all we have is either models from last year or this year. So that's the only ones we're selling. You can give us your phone, we can do it for you. But as far as what we're selling, it's just current model. The only one that we don't supply is we don't stock Pixel 7s and 7 Pros. We don't, or 6 Pros. We don't stock them because they're very expensive. Okay, and it's too risky for us. So we don't stock them. If you want us to do them, we can do them. They're very expensive. They're like $700 to $800 for us to buy. So by the time we put in the OS, we're up to, our BYOD service is $130. So we have to pay $800, and then to sell it to you for $1,000. That's really a big drain on our cash flow for very little margin. So anyway, that's why you can buy them. We'll do them for you, but I can't stock them. Okay. You offer some, John J. I have employees here who will, I'm sure, supply these services even if I'm not around. Okay. They will want to make a living, and they will continue this. I don't do the phones. I don't do a lot of the stuff that I don't maintain the VPNs. It's all done by employees, and so none of that shuts down. Even if I'm not around, there's somebody doing it. Okay, just so you know. Okay, so thank you for watching, guys. I guess I have 1 minute here, and we'll see you next week. So next week video, by the way, is comparing 7 messaging apps, and it'll be interesting to see 7 messaging apps. So it's very specific. Thank you for watching, my friends, and I'll see you next time.